You have likely spent your entire life feeling like there is something fundamentally broken in your operating system. You watch other people, colleagues, friends, family members, and you see how easily they move in packs. You see how they derive energy from the noise, the crowds, the constant chatter, and the friction of social interaction. And because you do not function that way, because you feel a physical need to pull away and retreat into the silence of your own company, you have convinced yourself that you are the error. Society has reinforced this. From the moment you started school, you were graded on participation. In the workplace, you are evaluated on teamwork and networking. If you sit alone at lunch, people ask if you are okay. If you stay home on a Friday night to read or simply exist in silence, people accuse you of being depressed or antisocial. The world is built for extroverts, and because of that, the world has diagnosed your preference for solitude as a pathology. They call it social anxiety. They call it avoidant personality disorder. They call it being a loner with a tone that implies potential danger. But I am here to tell you that the diagnosis is wrong. You are not antisocial. You are not broken. You are selectively social, and there is a massive difference. What you are experiencing is not a defect in your character. It is a divergence in your biological wiring that evolution designed on purpose. We are going to strip away the labels that have been placed on you. We are going to stop apologizing for the way you exist. To understand why you prefer being alone, we first have to understand the lie you have been sold about human connection. We are told that humans are social animals, and that constant connection is the baseline for mental health. While it is true that we need community to survive, the modern interpretation of this, that we must be constantly available, constantly communicating, and constantly in the presence of others, is a recent invention. For the vast majority of human history, solitude was not a symptom of illness. It was a prerequisite for leadership, for insight, and for survival. The shaman lived on the edge of the village, not in the center of the square. The scout ranged ahead of the tribe, alone. The inventor needed the silence of the workshop to hear the thoughts that the crowd would drown out. The reason you feel exhausted by the modern world is not because you are weak. It is because the modern world is essentially a sensory assault that your brain refuses to filter out. When you label yourself a loner, you are judging yourself by the metrics of a crowd that you were never meant to follow. Think about the last time you felt truly at peace. I am willing to bet it wasn't at a party, and it wasn't in a boardroom. It was likely in a moment of absolute solitude. Maybe it was late at night when the rest of the world was asleep. Maybe it was on a long drive with the radio off. In those moments, did you feel lonely? Or did you feel, for the first time all day, like you had finally returned to yourself? That feeling is not accidental. It is the key to unlocking your true potential. But you will never find it if you keep trying to force yourself into a mold that was designed for someone else. We need to reframe your entire existence. You are not hiding from the world because you are afraid of it. You are stepping back from the world because you see it too clearly, and you need the space to process what you see. This is the first step, rejecting the shame. The shame of leaving the party early. The shame of not answering the phone. The shame of needing a weekend of total silence just to recover from a week of ordinary noise. Once you drop the shame, you can start to look at the mechanics of your mind with curiosity instead of judgment. And when you do that, when you look at the actual science of why you are the way you are, you realize that being a loner is actually a high-performance state of being. Let's go deeper. Let's look at the hardware. Why do you crave solitude while others crave stimulation? It is not a matter of attitude. It is a matter of neurochemistry. The primary difference between the brain of a loner or an introvert and an extrovert lies in how they process dopamine. Dopamine is often called the reward chemical, but it is really the chemical of looking outward. It drives us to seek external rewards, status, money, food, and social validation. When an extrovert enters a loud, busy party, their brain releases dopamine and they feel a surge of energy. It feels good. It feels like fuel. But your brain works differently. You are more sensitive to dopamine. That same loud, busy environment that energizes the extrovert overstimulates you. It floods your system. What feels like excitement to them feels like anxiety or sheer exhaustion to you. Instead, your brain relies on a different neurotransmitter called acetylcholine. This is a chemical that makes you feel good when you turn inward. It is released when you focus deeply, when you read, when you think, and when you are safe in a quiet environment. Acetylcholine is the chemical of calm, focus, and deep satisfaction. This is why you prefer being alone. It is not because you hate people. It is because your brain is literally rewarding you for depth rather than breadth. While the extrovert is hunting for the next dopamine hit from a new conversation, you are bathing in the acetylcholine of a deep thought or a quiet moment. This biological reality creates a fundamental difference in how you interact with energy. Most people are like solar panels. They need to be out in the world, absorbing the light of other people to recharge. You are more like a battery. You have your own internal power source, but it drains when you are connected to the grid. You need to disconnect to recharge. This brings us to the concept of the restorative niche. This is a term from psychology that describes the place you go to return to your baseline. For you, solitude is not a luxury. It is a medical necessity. It is your restorative niche. When you deny yourself this time, when you force yourself to go to happy hour because you don't want to seem weird, or when you fill your schedule with social obligations to please others, you are operating in a state of biological debt. You are running your engine without oil. Eventually, you will crash. This is what leads to the irritability, the brain fog, and the sudden urge to ghost everyone you know. It's your brain engaging an emergency shutdown protocol to protect itself. Furthermore, we must discuss the default mode network of the brain. This is the network that activates when you are not focused on a specific external task, when you are daydreaming, reflecting, or just being. In most people, this network is active only occasionally. In people who prefer solitude, this network is often highly developed. It is where you process your identity, your memories, and your future simulations. When you are alone, you are not doing nothing. You are doing the heavy lifting of self-construction. You are analyzing the data of your life, connecting dots that others missed, and forming a coherent worldview. This requires massive amounts of bandwidth. If you are constantly surrounded by people, your default mode network is interrupted. You cannot hear yourself think because you are too busy processing the social cues of others, their tone of voice, their body language, their expectations. For a person with high social sensitivity, interacting with others is a high bandwidth activity. It is not passive. It is active data processing. No wonder you are tired. No wonder you prefer the company of a book or a video game or a quiet walk. In those spaces, the data stream is manageable. You are in control. There is also a significant link between the loner personality and high intelligence, specifically intrapersonal intelligence. This is the ability to understand oneself. It is one of the rarest forms of intelligence. Most people spend their entire lives running away from themselves. They fill every silent moment with podcasts, music, texting, or scrolling because they are terrified of what they might find if they are left alone with their own thoughts. You do not have this fear. You have faced yourself. You have sat in the silence and made friends with the voice in your head. This gives you a level of self-sufficiency that is terrifying to those who rely on the herd for their identity. When you don't need others to tell you who you are, you become impossible to manipulate. This is the threatening aura of the loner. It's not that you are antisocial, it's that you are uninfluenceable. You have a sovereignty of mind that can only be cultivated in solitude. The world tries to pathologize this because a person who is happy alone is a person who cannot be sold things they don't need and cannot be coerced into doing things they don't want to do. Your biology is not a mistake. it is a fortress.
Now that we have cleared the debris of misunderstanding and looked at the biological blueprint, we arrive at the most important part, the advantage. What is the point of being this way? Why did evolution keep the loner in the gene pool? The answer is innovation and stabilization. If you look at history, almost every major shift in human consciousness, every great invention, and every profound work of art came from a period of intense solitude. Isaac Newton discovered the laws of gravity and calculus while in isolation during the plague. Use that as a metaphor. When the noise of the world stopped, the signal of the truth became clear. Steve Wozniak, the inventor of the Apple computer, famously said that artists work best alone, and he advised that if you want to invent something, you must work alone. Why? Because groups tend to regress to the mean. Groups seek consensus, they seek harmony, they smooth out the edges of a radical idea until it becomes acceptable and average. You, in your solitude, are not bound by the consensus of the group. You are free to explore the edges. You are free to think the thoughts that would be laughed at in a committee meeting. This is your superpower, independent thinking. In a world that is becoming increasingly akin to a hive mind, where social media creates echo chambers of identical opinions, the person who can step away and think for themselves is the most valuable asset in the economy. You are the course corrector. You are the one who can look at a situation without the bias of groupthink and see the disaster coming. You are the deep worker in a shallow world. While everyone else is busy signaling their virtue and broadcasting their every move, you are quietly building an empire of competence. But there is a trap you must avoid. The trap is turning solitude into isolation. Solitude is a choice. Isolation is a prison. Solitude is restorative. Isolation is destructive. The danger for the loner is that the comfort of the inner world becomes so addictive that you stop shipping your work to the outer world. You must remember that the purpose of the cave is to return with the fire. You go into solitude to retrieve the idea, the solution, the art, or the strength, but then you must bring it back to the tribe. This is the hero's journey. The hero leaves the village, faces the dragon alone, and returns with the treasure. If you stay in the cave, you are not a hero. You are a hermit. Your challenge and your life's work is to master the rhythm of engagement and withdrawal. You must learn to protect your solitude fiercely, not as a way to hide, but as a way to prepare. You need to set boundaries without apology. No is a complete sentence. You do not need to invent an excuse about being sick or having a prior engagement. You can simply say, I need some time to recharge. The right people, the people who respect you, will understand. The wrong people will fall away, and that is a good thing. You are curating your environment. You are building a life that honors your biology. Stop trying to act like an extrovert to fit in. It is a waste of your precious energy. When you pretend to be someone else, you are giving the world a mediocre version of a fake person, instead of the brilliant version of the real you. Embrace the silence. Embrace the Friday nights alone. Embrace the fact that you can sit in a room by yourself and feel completely whole. That is not a sickness, it is a victory. It means you are free. The next time you feel that pull to pull away, do not fight it, follow it. Go into the depths of your own mind. That is where your gold is buried. The world is noisy enough. It doesn't need you to add to the noise. It needs you to bring the clarity that only comes from silence. You are a super sensor, a deep processor, and a guardian of the quiet. Stand tall in that. You are not alone, you are simply independent, and there is a universe of difference. So, here is the final takeaway. If you have been waiting for permission to be yourself, this is it. Stop looking for validation from people who do not understand your language. You have a gift that the world is desperate for, even if they don't know how to ask for it. Protect your peace, cultivate your mind, and remember, the person who enjoys their own company is never truly alone. They are in the presence of the only person who will be with them from birth until death, themselves. Make that relationship the strongest one you have, and everything else will fall into place.